I really hope you're going to have a really interesting and exciting and thought-provoking day today. I'm Kandy Woodfield, I'm one of the network leads, and the aim of this session is really for me to set the scene, to tell you a little bit about what the network looks like, who's been involved in it, the types of activities that we've been doing over the last 12 months, and to give you a flavour of some of the issues that network discussions have given to us over the course of the year. And these are issues that this network hasn't solved and didn't set out to solve. They're issues that we're throwing back out to the research community, and we'll say a bit more later on about what we hope will happen with the network in the future. Okay, so what was Blurring the Boundaries about? Each year the ESRC funds a small number of networks of methodological innovation with the intent purpose of catalysing or consolidating discussions around particular methodological issues. The networks are run through the National Centre for Research Methods, so I should thank them for the funding that made this network possible. And we were funded in April 2012 to run a network for 12 months, which as you can see is running from May to May. And we are a collaboration of NatCen Social Research, the Oxford Internet Institute and Sage Publications. So I will just ask people who are from those organisations here today to make yourselves known, so that if you've got any questions or you need any help during the day, then these people can help you. So if you could just put your hands up so people know who you are. Great, thank you. What were we trying to do? We wanted the network to explore whether social science researchers should be embracing social media. And we also wanted to know what are the implications for us if we do embrace social media and take it into our practice. We were aware already at the start of the network that there was a huge amount of innovation and social media research going on across the board in social science, but there wasn't necessarily a single collective discussion going on about looking at what people were doing, what methods they were using, and what challenges they were facing. That research was going on in commercial bodies, market research agencies, in universities, in research units, across a wide range of sectors. And our aim for the network was to provide a cross-disciplinary, cross-sector, cross-methodological space for people to come together and share their experiences of experimenting with, of using social media to do social research. And also we've had people come and talk about actually exploring people's social media behaviour through social research. So it's really about knowledge sharing. It's about catalysing a methodological debate, and it's been about looking to the future and saying what needs to happen for us as a research community to make sure that when we are using these methods, we're using them well, we're using them to their best impact, and that we're talking to one another across disciplines about what we're doing. So that was what we set out to do. So we have a slide that's not working. Okay. So we have 451 registered members. We actually have a lot more people than that have been involved in the network. Slightly more women than men, and we have people from 20 disciplinary fields involved in the network. So it really has achieved its goal of having people from a range of different disciplines, from as diverse as anthropology to information systems. So it's been a really, really diverse network. Of the people who are involved in the network, about 60% had some experience of using social media techniques or methods or researching social media life before they took part in the network. And that was what we were aiming for. We wanted to bring together people who had some experience so they could share that with one another. We also had around about 40% of people who would class themselves as beginners with social media at the start of the network, and that's provided a really nice dynamic for people to share and learn from one another. 65% of people who took part as registered members were from the UK, but we've had a really healthy, active involvement of international members. So we have people from as far-flung as Australia, Japan, North America, Canada. So there's been people involved from a range of different places, and that's been a really, really positive thing for the network to have achieved. About 75% of people are from the HE sector, which is as you would expect, given that this is funded by the ESRC. And the other quarter of us are from commercial bodies, from charities, public sector bodies, which are also using social media research. And there you go. 76% employed, about 34% students. So what have we been doing? Well, what we did was we aimed to set up spaces both online and offline for people to come together and reflect about their experiences. We were all about innovation, hearing about what people were doing that was new, bringing people together to collaborate, so hopefully setting up relationships for people that they met at network events or through our Twitter feeds, providing a bit of inspiration for people and some fresh thinking around social media methodology. So we've had our network activities taking place across a range of platforms. I'm not going to go through them all there. They're there so that you can see the range. YouTube and Twitter, for example, are two of the platforms that we've used a lot. And we've also run face-to-face events. So in the course of the last 12 months, we have had 2 conferences, of which this is the second. We've had 4 knowledge exchange seminars. Those have focused on particular methodologies, so qualitative methods for social media research, quantitative methods for social media research. We've looked at quality issues and the ethical issues of social media research. We had about 25 people at each of those network events. We've run 3 online seminars using Blackboard, which some of you will be familiar with. We've had 7 themed Twitter chats. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Twitter chats, but they last for an hour. They're around a theme or a topic, and those have been really popular. We've run those about once every sort of 8 to 9 weeks, and we really hope that those will keep going in the future because they seem like a really fast, rapid way for people to make contact, share content, and just basically interact with one another about their research. We've written 56 blog posts, and I'm using the royal we there because that's not the network members, that is the whole network. So 56 blog posts over the course of the year. If you haven't been to our blogspot yet, please do have a look. There's some great stuff there about all different types of methods and all different types of challenges in doing social media research. 23,000 blog post views, which I'm quite proud of. And as you can see, you probably can't see actually on that map, but that gives you an idea of where the green colours are where people have read the blog post from. And again, that just backs up the point I was making about it being an international network. And that's one of the reasons why we're filming the keynote speeches today so that they can go up on the blog and we can share those next week at our digital event. 3,500 minutes of YouTube video from network events has been watched, and over 1,000 video views on YouTube. So you'll forgive us if we're looking a bit tired today because it's been a busy 12 months. So what have we learned over the course of that 12 months? Well, we knew this before we started the network, but if anything, it's just reaffirmed it for us, that social media has permeated most of the social science disciplines, particularly in the UK, but we've seen evidence of that in other countries as well. We've heard about some really groundbreaking use of methodology. We've heard about some really exciting collaborations between disciplines that you wouldn't normally expect to collaborate together, and really interesting use of technology to either support or extend the research that people are doing around people's lives. And that research isn't just about how people behave online, that's research into all areas of life, from sexual violence through to children's attitudes. So there's a really vast range of research being undertaken, and there's been some great examples of multidisciplinary research that we've heard about. Nevertheless, there are still silos, and we've seen that at network events, people talking about the difficulties with talking to people cross disciplines about using social media. We've seen some evidence of people reinventing the same wheel, so another tool being created that does something very similar to a tool that somebody else has created. Multiplicity in methodology is great. When it's just recreating something that's already there, you wonder whether that resource and time may have been better spent collaborating to move that first tool forwards. So there are some instances where we felt that a bit more collaboration, like we've been doing, like network members have been doing with each other, would really help to propel the methodology further. But the overarching message is that there isn't a single methodology. So I think it's a bit of a misnomer when people say, I'm doing social media research, because actually that is a very generic term for what is a very diverse set of disciplines, a very diverse set of epistemologies. And it's very important, I think, as a community that we continue to recognise and value that diversity and understand that one approach, the ethics of one approach, the issues around quality for one particular approach to social media research won't necessarily translate to another approach for social media research. So it's a very diverse church, and that's something I think we should celebrate. But at the same time, as a community, we do need to tackle some generic issues around ethics, around quality, and so it's about striking a balance, I think, between those things. The other thing that's been really striking in all of the discussions, whether on or offline, has been a real persistent, almost nagging uncertainty about whether we're getting it right when we do social media research. And that's what a lot of the discussions at our events have focused on. And in particular, the real sort of nub of this has been whether we're getting this right ethically. And what are the ethical, practical, legal implications of engaging with research participants using social media platforms? And underlying that, there's been a sense of the question, do we really know the digital social world well enough to make the right ethical choices? So do we really understand what the users of social media platforms think about their privacy rights, about their data being used for research purposes, about their blog posts being analysed? And there's been a lot of discussion at network events about that. As I said at the start, we've not resolved these issues. These will continue to be issues that we'll need to sort of wrestle with as a community. And you'll see later on this morning, we've got some talks and some speakers who will talk about some work that they're doing, which is hopefully going to shed a bit more light on those types of issues. And I know that there are a number of people here today who are doing their own research projects, for example, looking at what participants think about their media, social media data being used. And the other thing I think that we've flagged up as a network is that there's been a real lack of engagement on the whole, and I'm talking generically, and I know there are exceptions to this, with the community engaging with the providers of platforms. So really sitting down and talking to the gatekeepers of social media data, whether that be Twitter, whether that be WordPress, whoever it is that at the end of the day owns those platforms and owns the data on it. And there are exceptions to that, and you'll probably be aware that ESRC's just funded a number of projects, co-funded them with Google. So there are some barriers coming down, but nevertheless I think we probably need to get better at talking to the commercial sector about this area of research. I suppose the fear there is if we don't, we may find ourselves locked out of this as a potential data source, so it's important that we engage with them. The debates about getting it right have also been about methodological quality. So what does it really mean to do a good piece of social media research? And this is where I say you can't have a single approach, because what it might mean to do a good piece of quantitative social media research will be very different to what it might mean to do a robust piece of qualitative social media research. What's a robust sample from Twitter or Facebook? Those are the types of questions that the network's been grappling with. And the other thing that we've heard from people, particularly those who are students, is that they face quite a lot of cynicism and some concerns from their supervisors about whether or not they are using a method which is deemed appropriate, and so they face some suspicion and some cynicism. And so there clearly is a need for us, again as a community, as a network, to develop a bit of methodological confidence around social media and be prepared to stand up and defend the method when people criticise it or are cynical about it. And you know, it really strikes me that this is very similar to conversations I had more years ago than I wish to mention around qualitative research. The same feeling is coming through here, that we're just starting to coalesce around some really robust arguments for why this is a valid and appropriate and useful way to conduct social research. The other issues that have come out have been the digital literacy issue, which is one that permeates society generally. But for us in particular, there are methodological skills gaps. It's a really fast-moving area, new tools, new methods, new techniques happening all the time. And therefore, it's very difficult for people to keep up to date and to feel really confident and competent with the techniques and tools they're using. And there is clearly a need for more training and more more network activity which supports people just starting out. And we had a Twitter chat yesterday with the Social Research Forum, which is a new Twitter group, and we did a joint tweet chat for an hour yesterday, and there was lots of enthusiasm for a mentoring or a buddying system for people, so more experienced researchers buddying up with newer researchers to social media. So that's the type of thing that we're looking to the future for. And the other thing that people have reported is a real lack of experience or understanding on the part of some institutions, some ethics boards, and some funders. So there's some issues there around the education of those who commission, manage and regulate social research. So there is lots left to discuss in the network, and in some senses it's a shame that our funding comes to an end this month, but we're really keen to keep the network alive, and we will be asking you later on today to think about how you could be involved in helping us to do that. The network was called Blurring the Boundaries at the start, and I think our consensus opinion is that there is definite blurring of the boundaries between different social media methodologies, between on and off the online and offline worlds, and across disciplines. And I see that as a wholly positive thing. We need to be aware it's happening, and we need to think about the challenges that presents to us. But the blurring of the boundaries is definitely was definitely a good label for this network. So we will ask for your help to keep the network alive at the end of today and throughout today. If you're interested in becoming involved, please come and see one of us during the day, and we can have a chat about what that might involve. We have a SurveyMonkey poll open at the moment, which asks network members, in the loosest possible sense, because not everybody's registered, to give us their views about what useful activities the network might do in the future, and also gives you space to volunteer, to take part in future activities. We've given you that address in your delegate packs. Really, really love to hear your views. Even if this is the first network event you've been to, have a think about what you think we should be doing in the future. Please spend 5 minutes doing the poll. It's really all it takes. It will be really useful for us in making sure that there's some sustainability for the network afterwards. And just a small plea as well, there is an evaluation form about today, so if you could fill that in before you leave, that would be great. So thank you for listening to my opening comments. I know today is going to produce some really great discussions. Really looking forward to being present at those discussions and hearing what you've all got to say and sharing your experiences of social media research. So I will end there. Chance for any questions if anyone has any.